All right, so we are recording now. Let me share my screen also so you guys can. Yeah. So, can you see my screen?
Yes, yes.
All right. All right. So, W3 school. Let's look at W3 school. So we're looking at DOM events, right? JavaScript, blah blah blah. And JavaScript, W3 schools. HTML DOM, yeah. So, introduction to DOM. We explained all of these guys. How DOM is like a tree. You have the document, then the root element, which is HTML, the head, the body. Inside the head, you have the title. Then inside the body, you have the elements, the attacks, then the attributes, and stuff like that. As a tree, right? We've gone over all of these guys. So now, we want to look at some DOM methods and then the events too. So we want to look at DOM methods and events. Remember, I say the DOM is is an object. It has um, um, actions, just like every other object has properties. It has actions and values. The values are like the properties. The actions are like the methods. All right. So it has the methods and the properties. So we're going to look at the methods and probably look at some things. We're not going to look at everything anyway. But importantly, we look at the methods, we look at the events, event listeners. Maybe we look at nodes and collections and lists, but we just look at some things and then we'll start implementation. All right. Now, whatever we have here, wherever we have here, meanwhile, I gave you guys an assignment last week. Excuse me. I gave you guys an assignment last week. So I've seen Arinze Zone. I've seen. I think Sebastian just sent his own, so I'll look at it. Bamidele have sent his own. I've not looked at it. So Blessing and Ami, I'm here to see your own. The assignment I gave last week. Please, by next week, I want to see it. By next week, I want to see it. Please. So we looked at the assignment. We did a review of the assignments last week. Um, so that's just wanted to point that out. So you see this HTML, whatever you see here can actually be manipulated by JavaScript, literally, because all of these things are modeled inside the DOM. The HTML, the head, the body, and all of them. They are modeled inside the DOM. And we have the DOM methods, the events, things that are applicable, the properties that are applicable to the DOM. That's what we're trying to look at. All right. So one of the methods. Okay, let's look. Properties a value like blah blah blah. A value you can get or set, like changing the content of HTML. All right. So you can actually change the content of HTML, like the way you have. My name is here. I can decide to change it to a random thing. Hello world using JavaScript. Right. So those are like properties. A method is an action, so something that carries out an action for us on the DOM. So they gave us an example here that changes the inner HTML of the p tag. So the inner HTML, which is the content of this guy, this is a p tag, regular HTML. So they have an example that change the inner HTML of the elements to something else. What am I saying? I hope you guys know you can run your code on you can run these codes on what's it called, W3 School. So I can actually make changes here too. Yeah. So let me add S to this and run it. You can see the S here. So you can actually make these changes. But you get all those suggestions we have. So I say this is instance 1.1, sorry, 1.1, and I run it. So this is like a semi ID, but it's not your regular ID, so it won't give you all the suggestions and the good looks and feels we get from VS Code. So let's run this guy and try to change the content of this guy. All right. So let's go live with this guy. If you have any question, please ask me as I'm going on. Ask me. If you don't understand something, draw me back. Ask me. It's okay. So let me increase this too. My name is then Emeka, blah 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 blah. So that first one doesn't have a name. I could decide to add a name to it. Alright? How do I do it? I have an ID on it already. So we can use any of the selectors. Did we mention the query selectors in our last listen at random? Did we? I can't even remember. Yeah, we did.
Yes, sir.
We did. I'm looking at it. So this was the class before the one we just did a review. So we mentioned the query selectors. Yeah. So I could pick the. No, it's not here. I could pick the font size. Okay. Is this okay?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Alright. So I could pick this guy with this ID. Alright? And then decide to change what's in it. How do I do that? I go to dom.js because that's a script we link to it. Okay, I've done it already. Document dot blah blah blah. What's the ID? Let me take out all of these guys. So the ID is hello. Excuse me. So I could pick it out using query selector. I could pick it out using query selector or get element by ID or get element by class name. Just as a recap, remember I said get element by ID gets only one element because IDs are supposed to be unique. Get elements, remember, elements by class name will return a list of elements because classes are assumed to not be unique. Then query selector, you provide the ID or the class. If there's an ID, you use hash. Hash represents IDs both in CSS and JavaScript. If it's a class, you use dot. It represents IDs both in CSS and JavaScript. If it's an element, you just provide the name of the tag. That's by the tag name. Or you can also do get element by tag name. Alright? So let's focus on get element by ID, the example we saw in W3 school. All right. So we look at this guy who gets the element by ID. So I'm going to take this guy out and only allow get element by ID. So cons hello element is equals document.get element by ID. I'm not going to log in. We want to change it. So I say hello elements dot, that's this guy, dot inner HTML. So we can get or set this guy. We can set a value to it. We can get a value from it. If you pay attention to your VS Code, if you're using VS Code, you will notice some things like this one. See the icons. These guys are properties. All right. You see these ones that have this cube that's purple or something. They are methods. If you also look at the name, excuse me, guys. Let me get water. Yeah, sorry for the break in transmission. If you also look at the name, you see that the ones that are methods are kind of like an action words, like an action word insert before is same node, is equal node, is default, whatever. So the names still suggest the ones that are methods. So sometimes the names might not be so suggestive, but just pay attention to the icons. Also, you can select them and hover over it and see what it does. It will tell you that it's a property, it's not a method. What is it? What's the type? String. Alright? So inner HTML dot inner HTML. So inner HTML and inner test are the two guys that sets the content of a HTML of a HTML element. What's the difference between the two of them? They are all strings. Remember, our HTML code is a string. All of these are strings, right? But the only difference is with test, you're only setting test. But with HTML, you can set a HTML element. What do I mean? With test, I can say dot inner test equals my name is no longer Emeka. Alright? So let's check. And our guy is saying my name is, oh, did I say no longer? And I didn't put Emeka. I had Emeka in my mind, I didn't write it. So my name is no longer Emeka. Our guy is saying my name is no longer Emeka. Alright? Now, but if I want to put HTML, then I'm going to use this guy. So most people just use HTML for both test and HTML because it works too. Right? It works. But I could also put HTML here. I could say, let me say, use bold and say my name is no longer Emeka. Alright? I've added a HTML tag to it. If you notice, that place is bold. All of this, this is just string. But when JavaScript takes it to this place, it evaluates to be what? A HTML element. So you can literally put any kind of HTML here. HTML as... Yeah, reason.
Okay, so regarding this example you just gave.
Alright.
It's also applicable to add some styling, yes?
Yes, you can add...
Tag.
You can add styles too. Yeah.
Okay.
You can even change the styles of these guys with JavaScript. If you need to. Alright? If we have time, I'll show you an example of where maybe you want to hover over something and the color will change. Those are things you catch with JavaScript. Alright? So those kind of things you set um, scripts to watch,
Then
event to watch for when you hover over it, and then you change the style. All right. For instance, for instance, um, so let me do something. This is a test danger. All right. So I want, if you hover over this thing, want it to change to blue or any color. All right. So I probably have a style or a CSS written somewhere that will set the color of this thing to blue. All right. Now let me say I want to use Bootstrap class. So instead of saying test danger, I will say test primary. Let's see what test primary will give us. This is a Bootstrap class. So test primary will give us blue, yeah. So you can do test warning, test info, and all of that. So I want, if you hover over that thing, I want it to change to blue. All right. I go to my script. I've changed the test. I can also come here and say hello elements. How am I writing? Okay. Dot I think it's class list. Yeah. So you have class name, you have class list. Class name is when you want to maybe assign just one class to it, if I can still remember. So there are a lot of things. There are a whole lot of properties here. If you notice, it's plenty. You probably spend 5 minutes going through all of them, or if you want to go to details, you probably spend up to an hour trying to know what they are. Just take your time. You mustn't know all of them at the same time. But as much as you're working on projects, you'll be seeing places where you need them. All right. So when you see a place where you need it, you try to implement it. You learn it. All right. So I say class list. I want to get the class list. If I console log this thing, I can console log this so you see the class list. Console.log this guy. All right. And I save. If I go here, we should see the class list. Console. You can see the class list, right? It's an array. It has only one element, test danger. Where is that test danger coming from? We say show us the classes in this guy. It has only one guy. If I add another one, let's say H1, that will make it appear like a H1. If I go to this place, it's appearing like a H1. This guy have increased 2 elements. You see that H1 inside it. So you can actually track the classes there. Now, what do we want to do? We don't want this H1. All right. You not only can you get this, you can also modify it. So I can also say class name. All right. So class name will give us just one. And I think if it's more than one, it will give you the first one and ignore the rest. It's more than, okay, yeah, it's giving you all of them as a string, yeah? It's giving you all of them as a string, not a list like the other one. All right. So if you are using this, you probably will name it as a string, not an array, because it's returning a string. So if I want to change the class with this, I should be providing it as a string, not an array. What do I mean? HTML element dot class list initially is test danger, and let me remove this one, just test danger. So I could decide to assign it to this guy, test danger, and H1. All right. So if we check, all right, so my name is no longer Emeka. So let me do this. So probably might not be able to set to using class list. What I'm saying. Okay, yeah, that worked. So it's not accepting an array. Actually, that thing is not an array per se. All right, it's not an array per se. Let me show you why I said it's not an array. Let me show you why it's not an array. Console.log. This is an array. Hello. is an array. Let me also do console.log HTML element.class list. Let's look at the both of them. You see one, right? So this is a regular array, but this guy is a DOM token list. So there is a DOM token list, there is node collection, there is, I think, node list or so. Those things are array-like, they behave like array, but they don't necessarily behave exactly like an array. So they have similarities with array. Like if you notice, it has indexes, but look at the value. The value is a string, a string with the list of the classes. So see the type, DOM token list. It's not exactly an array, but this guy is an array. See the type, array. So it behaves like an array in the sense that it's a list, but it's not necessarily an array. So it won't behave exactly like an array. I assigned it an array, so it refused to accept it. So that works too. So you can use this to change this thing from test danger only to test danger and h1. If you notice, it's not h1, even when the original class doesn't have h1. Now I can remove this test danger and put test primary. That's me changing the HTML whatever with JavaScript, the style with JavaScript. Does it make sense, Arinze?
Yes, I
Yeah.
agree.
So now you'll be like, why is it important? Sometimes you notice that you go to a site, you hover over something, or something happens based on a condition. In that case, let's say if you hover over thing, let it be when it will turn to blue, not just turn it to blue randomly. How do I do it? I add an event. We added events in our last class. So how do I add an event? I say HTML element dot add event listener. I hope I still know how to do that. All right. So this guy does add event listener, then the type of event, right, and the listener. So which event are we adding?
On over.
On hover, right? Thank you. I've forgotten the name of all of those events. So we have about hover. Why are you not suggesting? Change. So let's move down to on. Let's see if that on hover. Yeah, mouse over. Mouse over. Mouse over. That's the guy. So, but there should be on hover too. It's possible. I won't be surprised if I see it. So OP. So we don't have on over. It's mouse over. So I have mouse move, mouse leave, mouse enter, mouse down, mouse up, paste, playing. This is for playing media. A lot of events you can track. So when you're hovering, it takes a function. It takes a function. So I'm not going to separate the function. I'll just put it inside here. And then what do? I do this. So only do this when we hover over it. So by default, okay, let me refresh. By default, it is red. Now if I hover over it, it becomes bigger and the color changes to blue. But remember, pay attention. Even it's not just the text I'm checking, it's the whole element. Remember, the whole element. So that's why even if it's in an open place, like here, let me refresh again. It's in an open place like here, it still works. So we can decide to say, instead of mouse over, we can say mouse enter and mouse leave. Let me use that suggestion again. I'll say mouse enter or mouse enter, right? Mouse enter. So it only happens when the mouse enters it. I hope yeah. So it took some time. Yeah, it's happening. So when the mouse enters it, it happens. We can also add another event and say when the mouse leaves, do something else. So when the mouse leaves, I think mouse leave, right? Mouse leave, Then change it back to test danger. Remove this guy. Class list, class name, any of them works. So, sorry, let me refresh. And then with the mouse leaves, it goes back to how it was before. Alright? So this might be a place where you want to, so there's an issue with that thing. I don't know if it's my system. It's likely my system. Sorry. Anytime I load that screen recorder, it slows my system down. So there might be a case where you need this. That's when you try to change the style from this thing. You can even change the style directly, apart from changing the class. You can also change the style. Say, I think dot styles or something. I can't remember again. A bit dot attributes. Attributes, yeah. Dots length. I think set attributes. Yeah, you can set attributes and then set the style. Yeah, you set the attributes. Which attribute are you setting? Style. So let's look over here. So you put the field name and the value. All right. So I can set attributes to I think style. I think that's how you do it. Style and then the value. So let me look for a style we can set here. Can set the style attributes. Background color pink. Okay, pink will not be so obvious. Blue. So once anytime you leave the list, let the background color change to blue. So I'm going to copy this and then undo it. Want to do it from JavaScript. Hopefully it works. I can't remember. I've forgotten a couple of all of these things. It's been a while. So I'm setting the styles, background color blue when the mouse leaves. Alright, so let's check it. Alright, so I think it's working. So the mouse enters, it's fine. The mouse leaves, the background color turns blue. So that's also me changing the style from JavaScript. You probably won't be needing all of this all the time, but if you need it, just know that it's available, right? Right. So let's also do this so that makes. I will change this to danger, so it goes back to where it was, and this, yeah. Then I should move this too. So I want it to be alternating. So anytime the mouse enters, remove the style attributes. So set attributes. I think we can just set it to empty. I don't know if that will work. Uncut error. But only one. That's okay. So we can just say set style to nothing. Yeah. Set style to nothing. Alright. So I'm gonna leave. It's not actually changing it. So try to find a way to set that guy back. I can't remember exactly again how to reverse it. Alright. Maybe you need to set it to what it was before. Yeah, maybe set it what it was before. can't remember exactly, but you can try to figure that out. So probably say background color um, white or something. Yeah, you should do it. Background color white. So when you leave, it's not working. I don't know why. So try to find out why and get it to work. All right. So, but that's that. So you can actually do a lot of things from JavaScript on it. So we wanted to do document or get element by ID. I wanted to show you, or rather, I think I've shown you guys how to you can change something depending on the ID and adding an event to it. That was what we did with the mouse over. And then you've seen there are a lot of events, right? There are a lot of events you can add. There are a whole lot of events you can add, plenty. So just find out the one that you want to use for what you want to do and add it to it. Let's also do one small this thing again. Um, so let me show you one trick. This is always very important because it's one of the things you come across and you'll be like, how do these people do it? I'm sure you probably must have seen an application where excuse me, probably must have seen an application where, let's say you have a light bulb, they click on, it turns on, they click on off, it turns off, right? And you're like, how do they do it? Is it like this bulb is turning on or something? No, the bulb is not turning on. Most of those things, they swap the images. They swap the images. Alright? So for instance, let me fetch like a light bulb. Light bulb image. So we get one that is on and one that is, yeah, this is exactly the kind of scenario. So this is on and this is off. We could get, yeah, let's use this. Oh, I can use this. Save image as, oh, but then they are the same image. I want it separately. I could crop. Yeah, I could crop. Let me try. Oh, I could just get the one that separates and not stress myself. So use this. We'll save this guy. Lights bulb on, bulb on. Alright, save it. Then the other one is bulb off. Which one am I going to use for bulb off? Let's use this guy for bulb off. Let's use something similar. So this is bulb. This is bulb off. So you can get an identical image. The only difference is one is on, one is off, just like this one's here or this one's here. But I don't want to spend time cropping it, so that's why we're using this one. Bulb off. Alright, so let's move these two guys. Let's move this web. Yeah, the formats are not the same. We'll still use it. So let's move it to our folder. This is our folder here. Alright. So we create a folder, call it images. Images inside it. If you have a question, please ask me in case you're not following. And then importantly, please, after this class, always go through what we've done. So we have the images on and off. So let's come here and import this image. All right. Let me say I have a div. Inside it, I have an image. The source is images slash bob off. Alright, probably should have a button here, and then I give it a class. I'm going to use Bootstrap classes, btn outline, btn outline, secondary, btn small, btn sm, I think. All right, btn sm, I think that's it. And then I have switch. All right, so let's see what it looks like. Oh, the image is too much. So let's reduce the size of this guy. So we can also use Bootstrap classes inside this our div to set the width. So I say class width 25, width 25. Oh yeah, that should. It didn't do it. Width 25. How do I do this? 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 25% of.
What if we make image 100%?
We'll make one. Say again.
Can we make the image
To be 100%, right? Yeah, that's
the
another thing.
width of the image 100%?
Yes, that's another thing. 100. Width 100%, right? Yeah. I think that's when he probably will even obey this guy. Yeah. That's when it will obey that 25%. The image was stretching it out, making it look like. So probably increase this guy to 50. Yeah. So that looks better. So the image was stretching it out, making it like the class wasn't working. So we'll have the off guy, we'll have the switch guy. Let's also try to put this guy at the middle, at the center of everything. So let's say test center. Test center. Yeah. Alright. So have a switch. Alright. Now I want to keep track of, I want when you click on this thing, swap the image. So how do I do it? Let me import the second image. Let me import the second image. Image on. Alright. I don't know why this guy have. So let's, yeah. Oh, this one has a whatever. Yeah, it's fine. We finally didn't get an identical something. I wish we can just get something. That's when we feel the magical effects of what I'm trying to do. I wish we can get something very identical. Something very identical. That looks like each other. The only difference is one is on, one is off. So let me try something here. I could crop this guy. Shouldn't be a big deal. Shouldn't be a big deal. Crop this guy. Crop. How do I crop this? So let's see if it works. That didn't work. I said this should be easy to do this now. Shouldn't be a big deal. Crop image. Click the photo, then click editing as well. I don't understand. Double. Then click edit in the toolbar. So let's see what these guys are saying. Oh, it's okay. Okay. Let's adjust size. I want to crop this, not adjust. So why is it so difficult to see where crop is? I'm big. So tired of looking for what I can't see. Alright, so let's try to remove this guy's background anyway. So let's know if we succeed in removing the background of this guy. Yeah. Alright, so let's also remove this one's background. Because that will give the two of them a little similar duplicators. Alright, so do whatever you can do. Alright, so I think we can manage it if the background is off. So let's import again. Images. Where did you save it? Bob of copy. Bob on the png. Images slash Bob. How come it's not showing here? I don't understand. So where is this thing saved if it's not here? Is it in downloads? Oh, it's in downloads. Sorry guys. Bob of, and then the other one. Can't see that one. No, let's use this. Can manage the both of them. But if you're able to get two identical this thing, you probably figure out exactly what I'm trying to say. So I'll copy it, I'll take it to our guy here. Alright, so let's import the images again. Images slash Bob of TIF. This is gonna be Bob on. So we'll have the two of them. Can't see the other one. So I don't believe it's the image format. That's a problem. So the image format is not supported. Like, why is this image is becoming my problem this evening? Image format is not supported, so it's not showing. Like, what? please. See crop here. Oh, I think it's dependent on the image format. So the crop is not highlighted. Probably might have seen where my issue is coming from. I hope this does it. Yeah, this JPG. So hopefully this does it. So two, still the same thing. Can't crop. Alright. So let's do it online then. Crop.
It's not possible. Can't you can make it
He said?
instead of saving it? Is it possible to download it instead of saving the images?
Yeah, it's still the same thing. It's still the same thing. So I think I don't know why it's not that crop thing is not highlighted. So I'll just crop it online. I'm tired of. Ah, here's the guy I just downloaded now. Yeah, just crop it online. Like, there's not too much to ask for. Let me crop the other one too. We've spent a lot of time here trying to crop image. Alright, so every other guy can leave now. Yeah. Rename. I say Bob. Sorry. Bob on and Bob off. So now Bob will remove and beg. Tired of all these includes revert changes. Okay. Cancel. finally we have what we're looking for. Hmm? Copy the wrong guy. Yeah. So hopefully everything is fine now. So sorry for that delay. I just couldn't use. So this is off. Just couldn't use those images. It probably wouldn't drive home the facts I went to portray. Hope you guys can still hear me. Bob.
Yes, we can.
Alright.
Yeah.
So close this guy. And yeah, so we have the two of them now. Alright, so width 50, so might as well reduce it to 25 because the image looks bigger than the other one. Alright. And yeah, so this does it. So let's switch one off. So just have one. If you want you at the center, or at least okay, let me give this guy container. Yeah, container. So it's at the center. So what we want to do is on the click of this guy. So there is a click for every button. We want this thing to switch on. But obviously it can't switch on like this is an image. So what you are likely going to do is to swap the image with the one that is on. Can you guys hear me? Hello?
Yes, sir. I'm hearing
Oh, okay. So that's what we're going to try to do. So we already
you. Yes, we can.
you already have the one that's going to be on, which is this one. So what do? We pick this element. So let's give it an ID. Can give it a class, can give it anything, but just want to give it an ID. ID of bulb, right? Right. So document.element by ID. Document.get elements element by ID of bulb to be bulb elements equals to this guy. Alright. Then we also get the button because we want to change something on the button. So let's also get the button. So also get the button. Give me a second. So we also pick the button. So let's give it an ID of switch. Alright. And then we pick the button too. So give this guy an ID of switch and say Bob switch element. Alright. So this is a button. So let me just call it button. BTN for button. So Bob switch button, right? So this button dot add event listener. Which event listener are we adding to it? It can be a click. It can be a submit. Alright. It can also be a click. So let's go with the click. And then
Click.
yeah.
Yes, sir.
So we'll have the function. What do we want to do? We want to get an attribute of this guy holding the image and change it. When you click on the button, we want to get the attribute of the image element holding the image and change it. Which attribute is holding it? This source. So we set the source attribute. How do we do it? We have the Bob element, so we say Bob element dot set attributes. Which attribute are we setting? SRC. What are we setting it to? This. All things being equal, this should give us what we want. And then we save. So we come here and our Bob is switching. Right? Does it make sense? Ordinarily, if I didn't tell you what I did, so forget this guy. Is this guy pushing this thing? Let me comment it out. So that's the guy pushing our guys. We didn't tell it to be dancing. So yeah. So if we hadn't seen the implementation, you could easily be deceived that this thing is turning on and off, right? Now, what do I need to do? I also want to turn it off. Now we can even try to be smart and say, okay, let this thing be on, be showing on, switch on or something. If you click on it, let it be showing switch off. Alright? So we'll come here and say switch on. When you click on this guy, let it go to switch off. Alright? Now, we'll copy this and set the inner HTML of this button or the text of this button. So we'll say button switch btn dot inner text, right? Or the inner HTML equals switch off. So that should also do that. So it's showing switch on, and if I click on it, it's showing switch off. Alright. But then we want to click it again and something happens, right? We want to click it and it keeps going off and on and on and off. In that case, we need to keep track of when it's on or off. Any questions so far from anybody? Any questions so far from anybody? Are we together? Alright, so we'll have a blessing, Arinze, Ami, and so I think Bamidele dropped off. I hope all is well with him. So let's continue. Alright. So now what do we want to do next? Remember I told you guys it's about to start getting interesting. So this is where you pay attention to. This is where you start doing things that are looking like real life. All right. Now, what do you want to do next? You want a situation where if you click on this thing again, let it. So just pay attention though. The reason why you're even able to see this image change is because they are not exactly the same. If you were to be an image that's exactly the same, the only difference is the color here. It wouldn't even move because you notice it's moving a little. It wouldn't even move. Now, what do you want to do again? You want this thing to switch off again. As go back to off, and then go back to on again as you are clicking on it. That's what we want to do. To do that, we need to keep track of the state of the light bulb at each point. How do we do it? So instead of switching on and off, I'm going to be doing something. I'm going to be setting states. So let me say const. Okay, let me say is on. Let me use that boolean. Is on equals, no matter what is on is, negate it. If you don't understand this thing I did here now, let me know. Then I'll come inside here and say const is on equals by default is off, right? Bulb off, yeah. So by default is off, so false. Alright. Now, what do we want to do? Anytime this guy happens, switch this to, if it was true, change it to false. If it was false, change it to true. Now, if is on, I'm going to use that ternary guy, ternary operator that we use. I think it was last class we did it, so probably the people that wasn't last class won't know what we are doing now. If it's up, let it be. If it's on, let it be switch on. Sorry, this is supposed to be a question mark. Else, let it be switch off. If you are not in last class, you probably wouldn't know what this thing means. But that's fine. What else do we do? So we can't use ternary in this guy.
I
Yeah?
can't see your screen.
Hello? Say again. Someone is saying something I couldn't really hear. If you're having a network issue, you can type. So I think I'll get that easier.
I wasn't seeing your screen before.
Are you seeing it now? Is everybody seeing my screen? Can you hear me, guys? Hello?
Network is with issues. I can see your screen now.
Alright, so if you're having network issues also, you can just send a test. Yeah, so everyone can see my screen. If you can't see my screen, let me know. I assume everybody can see my screen, so I'll move on.
I wasn't.
So I think Ariza is having network issues. So if you can't still see it, send a test, Ariza. So let me continue. So we are using the ternary operator. If you don't understand this ternary operator, it's just like an if statement. Alright? I'm saying if is on. This question mark is saying if this is true, assign switch on to this guy. This other guy is saying else, assign switch off to that guy. So that's what this guy is doing. But because we can't use it to this man because we're not assigning a value, we are calling a method. So we can say if, we can use the if normally. If is on, then what we want to do is to turn it off. So bulb element does set the source we'll turn it off. All right. So let's say if it's not on, turn it off. Turn it on. Else, all right, set it to what it was before, which is the off guy. So let's go and copy the off guy too from here. If you don't understand, let me know. So this is the off guy. So we'll copy this off guy and put it here. All right. So whatever this guy is, negate it. So this should work. Okay, so we're having an, let's look. I think we're having an error. Contents length mismatch. Switch on. Uncaught error. Assignment to constant variable. Alright, so we're assigning to something. Boss switch. What are we assigning to? Oh, this guy. Should be alert. Because we are assigning to it. We are reassigning to it. So it should be alert. Alright. So now, if we do this again, switch off, switch on. Now it's going on and off, right? Because we are not keeping track of the states. So we can actually turn on and off, turn our guy on and off, just with keeping track of these states. We have a guy that's keeping track of the whether it's on and off, so and it's false. Then whenever you click on this button, change whatever that guy is and do all of these actions. So if you don't understand, that's a question. Any questions so far? I assume no, that we don't have any question. We understand it. So these are, and a lot of things are things you could do with DOM events. Like I mentioned, JavaScript is what makes our HTML and CSS lively, right? So that's what brings the live into it. If you notice now, things are becoming lively. It's no longer the normal this thing we had, static stuff we had. So I think there's an issue. Well, it's probably from my system. So this screen recorder is used to like take a lot of space processing this thing. Whenever I turn it on, my system always slows down, and that's happening to our this thing now. So, but that's that for this thing. So there are a couple of other HTML, DOM methods aside the get element by ID. We have some other ones. So we looked at these ones, tag name and the rest. So I think it just mentioned this guy and then jump to properties. Alright, so there are a couple of other methods. You can check that this thing and see them. So, but the most important ones you're going to be using most times, or you are going to be using often, is the ones that are grabbing the elements. So you can grab the inner HTML even. You can grab the child of something. You can grab a lot of things. And then what else do we need to look at? So documents. Let's also look at some other things. Yeah, so some of these properties like the inner HTML, the attributes, the style. Okay, so even you can access style even outside the attributes too. So element.style. I don't know why the thing wasn't showing us suggesting that time. So blah 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 dot style. Yeah, see it here. I tried it and I couldn't see it. So you can also access the style aside the attributes. You can set the attributes. I think you can also get the attributes. You can even create an element. Alright? So you can create an element, you can remove an element entirely, you can append an element, you can replace an element with another element. You can even write text into an element. There are a lot of things you could try, right? A lot of things you could try. So I need you to try out all of these guys on your own. So creating an element, you I think you give it the element's name, the tag, right? So we said document cons, let's say cons paragraph p elements equals documents dot create elements, and then you give it the tag name, so it's going to be a p options. So I think there are some options. Then I just created a p element. I can so now, yeah, so let's do this. As we are clicking on these guys, so I'm going to adjust this so that I can use one if statement to do all of these guys. So if this, then move this inside here, else. Alright, then I can bring this here, bulb.innerHTML equals, if it's not on, if it's on, so it should be off here. Yeah, and then if you don't understand what I'm doing, let me know. And then on. Alright, so I can take this out, just a repetition. So this, I'm sure this is easier to understand. So let's confirm that it's working, that we didn't make any mistake, and then yeah, still working. So we can come here and then say I want to attach a test to the end of this guy. That will be saying, yeah, the bot, or the beginning of the guy say, or end, I will say our bulb is on, whatever, right? So I'll come here and I create the element. It will be a p element, so I create a p element, and then when it's on, as I'm doing, let me create a span here, right? Let me create a span. Let me also create a span. We call it a span equals span. Alright, and I'll say span dot inner test. So whenever I switch this thing off, say span dot inner HTML or inner test equals, hey, our bulb is off, right? Right. And then if it's on, we want to say, hey, our bulb is on. Our bulb is on, right? Now, depending on what it is, I want to append this span element to this guy, to the I want to put it inside the paragraph element. So I'm trying to use some of those methods, but you go through it and use all of them, so you see how it works. It's not magic. So I'll see p elements dot append child, so I can append the child to it. Which node am I appending? I'm appending the span elements. Yeah, hopefully this works. So no matter what happens, append this guy. Oh, but I think it's going to keep repeating. Let me try it. It probably will keep repeating. Is that even showing? Yeah, I need to append it to. I need to append it to this guy. I've not appended it to this guy. I need to append it to this guy. So let me pick this guy. Let me give it an ID. I always prefer giving IDs so that I know when I'm getting something, I know I'm getting what I'm getting. It's not a class that I'll probably go and fetch something somewhere else. So append this child to this, then append document dot get element by id. If you don't understand what I'm doing, let me know, please. Id of container. I don't want to. I just want to say append. Let me just append this thing directly. So you can even get the parent elements of something, the child's elements, the child list or something, child notes. I can't remember what they call it. So a lot of things you could do. Document.get element by id container.append p elements. So I want to append that p elements to the guy. So let's see how it works. Hey above is on. Hey above is off. Hey above is on. Hey above is off. Alright. Okay, so I think this should be on and this should be off. So that's that. A lot of things you could do with your DOM elements. So I'm going to be hey above is off. Let's hey above is on. Hey above is off. Hey above is on. Hey above is off. Yeah. So a lot of things we could do with those combination of those events and DOM manipulation, right? A whole lot we can do. So we're not going to be looking at all of them at once. We are going to be using it, working on something, and then using it. So I just want to mention all of this. By next class, Irene said that this thing is ready, right? That our project is ready. Yeah?
Sir, it's not ready. I only worked on the assignment it drops, but I will discuss with you after the class.
Okay. Okay. So let's try. We'll try and get it ready, so that we'll use it for next class. I want to start adding things to JavaScript to it by next class, if we're able to finish all of this. So that's that for the this. You can look out for all of those guys, all of these guys. See the properties. There's a whole lot of them. Properties you can access. All right, plenty. Document.url, document. So this will give you the URL. This thing. To give you the URL. There's even a lot you could check. A lot. The ones I know, the ones I don't know. In fact, there are a lot that is not even here. So for all the ones here, just know that there are more. Alright. So finding elements, HTML by tag name. We've talked about this. What else have we not talked about? So using p.intro. So this is like using the query selector. You're getting all the paragraphs that has this class. So you can do a combination of all of this. Alright. Just know that when you're dealing with classes, it's going to return a list. So DOM HTML. Easiest way to modify the content of HTML by the inner HTML to generate blah 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 blah. Alright, so we looked at this, how to modify using the inner HTML. Also looked at changing the attributes with a new value. Dynamic HTML content, I think we looked at it. Writing to HTML. And then a whole lot, alright? So DOM forms, event listeners, we looked at events. So there are a lot of events. They have an example here. Alright, so click these guys, click me again, thank you. Alright. So a lot of things we could do. Alright. A lot of things we could do. On click, display, wherever. Alright. So a whole lot of things we could do. And then we'll look at the event listeners. So we already know how to add an event listener. So you could come here to look for more. DOM navigation. You can actually navigate through the DOM using the DOM tree. You can navigate the DOM tree. Appending child, getting parents, and the rest. So you can look at then the DOM notes and and collections. We are not going to be looking at all of these things one after the other. It will take us a lot of time. But on your own, you can come and do it. All right, can come and do it. So this is. I'm not going to be looking at the web APIs and the browser DOM, the BOM. So this is the browser object model. So this one is for the browser. We're not going to be looking at Ajax. We're also not going to be looking at JSON for now. We're not going to be looking at jQuery. We're not going to be looking at graphics and the rest. Reason is these guys are a bit advanced, and then some of them are going to be using it on our project, just like I mentioned. So I was asking at Arinze if it's ready. So we're going to be using it on those projects. Then also these guys promises probably will look at promises and the synchronous this thing. So this is a bit advanced too. So when we get to start using it, I'll explain them. All right. So I'm not going to go into the details. It will be too much information for you guys. And I believe when we are doing things that are interesting like this, it piques your attention more than all of those behind the scene nonsense I've been talking about. All right. So we spent a lot of time in our normal early discussion. So we're already behind schedule. So I want to look at this thing I gave you guys. I want to review one of this thing I gave you guys, the easiest one. Have anybody tried it? Did anybody try the challenge?
Yes, sir.
So which one did you do?
Actually, the one I could boast of is the calculator, the arithmetic. Why the typing speed? I had to go through Traverse project,
Yeah.
but I want to add some features to it.
Okay, you're getting it right. You are still on track, right?
Yeah, actually,
Hello.
yes, the typing speed I watched. Can you hear me, sir?
Yes, I can hear you. So you don't need any assistance on that for now, right?
For now, I don't need assistance.
Yeah, that's the thing. So you feel like you have the confidence you can figure it out. So I like that. So because of that, I'm not going to review it. I would like Arinze to try it. So that's like extending it to you guys too. I would like you guys to try it. All right. Those two challenges, even if you're not getting it, just be doing something. Yeah, I can hear Sebastian. I can hear you.
I worked on the typing speed app.
Okay.
It was not like a full-fledged app, but yeah, it had like the basic functionalities. Like if you type something, once you're done typing, then the text I provided, then it checks how fast you are per minute.
All right.
So that was the assignment I sent to you.
All right. So see what I. Okay, that's the one you sent to me.
Yeah.
Okay, I've not looked at it. I'll look at it. So see what I want. If you can see me, if you can see my screen, I want, as I'm typing, let's say someone is typing, blah blah blah, blah blah blah. Let's say every second. So a second is like 1, 2, or we can say every 30 is it 30? Half of it. A second is like 1,000 milliseconds. So every 500 milliseconds. Alright? So every half a second, I want the thing to keep displaying. So as I'm typing, after like half a second, they tell me, oh, you are doing 50 characters per second. Oh, you are doing 20 characters per second. Oh, you are doing 10 characters per second. You can decide to say use milliseconds, but I think per second is fine. So we know how many characters you are typing per second. That's what I want. So you have an input place, where they'll be typing in, and then something like this guy will be displaying it, changing, showing us you are doing this per second, you are doing this per second. All right. So yeah, Sebastian, I can hear you. If you have question on this challenge, let me know. I need you guys to try it.
From what you said like if the user or anyone that will be using the app will just be typing,
Yeah.
and then maybe per second we start showing them the
Yeah.
number of words they have been able to type. Is it going to be per second or per minute?
Per second, or in fact, do it per 500 milliseconds. So per half a second. So
Okay,
that
I want to also ask, like, we- for it's like a test, so we have to like give them some words to type, right? Or they can just be typing. Like,
they can
we
just be
want to know
typing. You
if
just,
if
yeah, yeah.
it's going to be like they just type anything. Then how do you check the accuracy? Like, the user can just be typing D and G, D and D, G and D, and they can just be saying, okay, it's very fast, but we need to test that their typing speed with a word that we are going to like place here.
Okay. So I understand we are Sebastian is. That's Sebastian talking, right?
Yes.
Okay, so I understand where Sebastian is coming from now. Someone can just be typing just like I'm doing now, right? And they are super fast. Okay. So we will want to assume that the person have sense. So we want to assume that the person have sense and they are saying something, all right, something reasonable. Or you can also want to take it a step further. That will make it make more sense and say, let's give you the test to type. All right, let's give you the test to type. But then you have to consider the speed at which that test they are typing is coming. Or you want to say we'll give you a particular word to type. Let's say we want you to type hello, so we want you to keep repeating hello. Or if you are displaying a test that's scrolling, right? You know you can make a test to scroll on your screen, right? Assignment number one.
Yes, yes.
Assignment number one for today. Make your test to scroll. Only have a long test and let it keep scrolling. Let it keep scrolling. Alright? That's what I want. In fact, when it gets to the end of this thing, let it scroll back. So let it keep scrolling. If it gets to the end of the test, let it start scrolling the other way. I don't even know if how you guys are going to do it. But please do it.
I don't understand what you mean by the text
So,
scrolling.
A test will just be scrolling like this.
Okay, okay, okay.
Alright? Okay, I would have said when it gets to this point, let it come back. But let me pity you guys. But let it be scrolling. Alright? So the test will just be
Like,
scrolling.
what you mean is that the text will just be scrolling down automatically and
And let them be
user will,
trying
like,
to
be
type.
typing.
Yes. But in
So
that,
if
Yeah.
the text like goes up and the user is not able to like catch that word, then what is going to happen?
Sebastian, what you are thinking of is a very high level of complexity to this thing. I beg, pity other people. Because that means you want to time the speed of the person now with the speed of the test scrolling. Right? You want to like try to sync it. So let's just have a word. So either you allow them to type randomly, or you just have a word that you tell them, okay, keep typing this word. Or let's just allow them to type, but they must type something that makes sense. We are not really checking it. We are not interested in what they are typing, but let them type so that we could watch it. Because I think that will be a lot of this thing. Let's not give us so much thing. You get? So assignment number 1, make your test to scroll on your screen. 2, I want a box. This is not JavaScript now. This is CSS. The two of them. I want a box. It's just plain HTML CSS. I want a box, all right, that will move from one edge of this thing to the other edge. So it will be bouncing from here. We get to this place, it bounce back to this place, bounce to this place again, bounce back. Those are the two things I want. A box a colored bus that will be bouncing from here to here continuously, non-stop, and a your test to be scrolling from one place to another. Sebastian, are you good?
Yeah, I'm okay. I'm okay.
So Arinze, yeah, I'm listening. Arinze, I can hear you.
Sir, like I said, the typing speed, the one I was able to work on,
Yeah.
looking at what Traversy did, I think that's the best idea. But I don't know if you were able to review it. I
Okay. So
pushed it
yeah,
to
let's what how does that one work?
that one. You are going to be like randomly is a loop, and that loop is going to you are going to set an array of so many words. So
Okay.
those words are going to be coming out using math.random. So randomly is going to be bringing out word for you, and
Okay.
you are going to have you will be typing those words uh, per depend on the level you want to play. Like there's a level for hard, medium, and easy. Easy,
Okay.
medium, and hard. So for easy, it's 5 seconds to be
Okay.
typing each word. As one, immediately you type each word and press space, another word is coming out instantly. So continuously. Then, if you want to set the level to medium, the seconds reduces to 3 seconds
Yeah.
for each word you are going to be typing. The random is going to be bringing out word. Then, if you want to put it hard, I think that one is 1 second. That one is really hard.
So
Then, what I'm trying to add to it, I want to use local storage so that I'll be able to store highest score, like any score that's the maximum score you get, it will save it. Then one other thing, if there are some other features that still add, but the one I've done, I don't know if you have time, you can still look to see how it works.
all right. So guys, let me say one thing. You see all of these things Arinze said now, don't listen to it. Don't feel intimidated. Arinze is on another level. I don't know what is giving him the morale, but he's on another level. So please don't feel intimidated. Especially the the people that are not that this kind of like their first time. So Arinze, whatever you just explained now is between me and you. We can review it in class. But please, I'll keep it simple for you guys because the more complicated it is, the more it might become challenging. So let's go back to the basics. You're allowed to, Arinze and Sebastian, you're allowed to add any feature you want to add. Add as much features as you can. When we review it, it will help other people to learn. But I want other people too to try something. I don't want them to be overwhelmed. So every other person, try the basic one. Allow the person to type anything they want to type. As they are typing, do what? Be checking their typing speed. Arinze is already talking of local storage. I'm sure a lot of people here don't know what local storage is. Leave Arinze alone. He's on another level. All right. So, Blessing, Ami, and Bamidele, you guys have been quiet. You could send a test if you're having network issues. Are we together? So the all right. So the yeah, Bamidele, if you're saying something, I'm listening. All right. So the what's it called now? The the guy that's scrolling from here to here. It was posted on the group. Blessing. Okay, I'll post it again. I'll see. Yeah, I'll check. If I see it, I'll post it on the 1.1 group. It was posted on the 1.0 group. If I see it again, I'll post it on the. If it's still there, WhatsApp haven't deleted it. I'll post it again. And then so the challenge is still open. We review it next week. It's a lot anyway, especially that calculator part. And make your calculator to be intact too. If not, especially Arinze, because I'll find loopholes, things that will make your code break. So make sure it's intact. All right. But guys, just try. Even if you didn't get it, try. I'm sure Arinze probably never knew about this thing. In fact, I'm sure when he saw that assignment, he didn't know he can do it. Arinze, true or false? Did you have an idea of how to go about it when you saw the assignment? Can you hear us, Arinze? I should have stopped this recording because whatever we're doing now is